I have an idea. Let's cast The Rock in his big screen debut as a character with all the emotional capacity of an actual rock. Brilliant.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
The Mummy Returns follows the further adventures of Rick O'Connell and company as they work to stop Imhotep from resurrecting the Scorpion King and taking over the world. I've mentioned this in a previous video, but I actually didn't care for the original version of The Mummy with Boris Karloff. I didn't honestly find it all that entertaining, and the only part that I found even remotely scary was when the mummy first came to life. I mean, no offense to anyone who likes that movie, but I just found it kind of dull. Granted, the Mummy films with Brendan Fraser aren't exactly what I would consider high art. In fact, I wouldn't even consider them scary unless you're a small child, but the first two films in this trilogy are at least fun and entertaining. Brendan Fraser's character, Rick O'Connell, isn't exactly the most heroic figure. In fact, he's a bit of an asshole. There's a point in the movie where he threatens to shoot someone just for flying a balloon. He is a lot of fun, though. I love how casual he is when some of the more dangerous moments are going on. Like, there's a point where Imhotep's undead servants are coming after him and his family, and his wife goes to block this door with a bench, and he basically reacts in the same way you might react to a small child doing something naughty. He grabs her by the hand, leads her away, and says, "Honey, what are you doing? These guys don't use doors." I like how his wife Evie is more of a badass in this movie too. In the first film she comes off as more of a damsel in distress, but in this movie when the bad guys are coming after her, she's more likely to pick up a weapon and fight back, which is awesome. Rick and Evie also have a child in this movie who is pretty annoying, but he's one of those characters who's written to be annoying, and he can actually be really funny at times. Also, he's not just tagging along with them for the sake of it. The way that he gets involved with the adventure is relevant to the story, and he's not just some dumb kid who's constantly getting himself in trouble. He is actually really smart, and you get the vibe that he is Rick O'Connell's child. And of course, Imhotep is a very fun villain. He's not so much a scary horror movie monster as he is just sort of a cartoon villain. There's even a point in the film where he's talking to the child and he straight up becomes Darth Vader. There is kind of a strange continuity error with him though, whereas in the first film he woke up and he needed to steal a pair of eyes and he needed to steal a tongue. In this film he wakes up able to see and speak just fine. I guess he got the munchies while he was asleep. When it comes to the special effects in the film, I thought that the actual creature designs were really cool to look at, especially the zombie monkeys. They were my favorite part of the movie, but at the same time, this film has some of the worst CGI I've ever seen. We're talking about CGI that would have barely been passable in the 90s. Basically, imagine the live-action Spawn movie without any of the makeup effects. Everything looks as badly rendered as Malebolgia. And when it comes to bad CGI effects, people often cite the big Scorpion King monster at the end of this movie as one of the worst CGI animations in film history, to which I have to say, really? I mean, he isn't particularly good looking, but in comparison to the other cartoons, he looks downright realistic. I mean, did you see Imhotep's face in that wave of water? He looked like something out of a PlayStation demo. And in regards to the joke I made at the beginning of this video, I do like Dwayne Johnson, don't get me wrong. He's very charismatic and funny, but by watching this movie alone, you wouldn't know that, because for his first big screen appearance, he really doesn't do anything. He's just kind of there to loosely move the plot forward. In fact, they might as well have cast an actual rock. By the way, if you're going into this movie about a villain who is a few thousand years old and is able to perform magic, then I hate to break it to you, but The Mummy Returns might not be for you. Whenever the bad guys, for example, aim their guns at the heroes, they basically become stormtroopers. I can see this movie took quite a bit of inspiration from Star Wars. Also, this film might secretly be a superhero origin story because there's a point where the child goes to stop this big stone pillar from falling to the ground, and he actually manages to slow it down before he finally says fuck it and runs. I mean, this movie never shows you how this child came to be in their lives. They could have found him in a meteor. Or a meteorite for those who like to get technical.
It's an escape pod, you jackass!
In the end, despite having some creepy imagery, The Mummy Returns is the type of monster movie that you could watch with your children, or your friends' children if you're babysitting, or if you're an overgrown child like me. Where was I going with this? If you're looking for a silly action movie to watch for Halloween and you're not too bothered by terrible CGI, then The Mummy Returns definitely comes recommended. And with that, I hope y'all have a good one.